very good evening for everyone's beautiful presence here. It means the world we have such great neurologists in the same building under one roof, and I have very humbly attempted to gather and compile the thoughts of so many of us while celebrating the ones that formally graduate as amazing neurologists. So without giving away too much, I will just start with this beautiful little emotion that I call a poem. And I hope you all connect at some level, and you'll find some Easter eggs hidden in there. So you might be able to connect some of your friends and fellows within that poem. And once you do, feel free to snap, clap, whatever fills your heart with joy. Somewhere between the pages of Adam and Victor, and the 100th time someone said, "Can you just come look at this patient for a second?" we became neurologists. Not all at once, not in the white coats, not after passing shelf exams, not after our first row codes, but somewhere in the middle of sleepless nights, half-finished notes, coffees at night, and conversations that somehow started with P&K and ended with life. And when we look back years from now, in addition to remembering the MRI sequences, the diffusion restriction, the EEG patterns, or the doses we once had memorized by heart for Kepra, we will remember the people. The people who taught us how, the ones we celebrate tonight. There was one who carried stillness like a superpower, who taught us that knowledge never needed volume, and the calmest voice in the room could still move mountains. The kind of teachers who answered questions before you even realized you had them. Another showed us that life never waits for residency to end, that families grow, children laugh, dreams continue, and somehow between ICU consults and call schedules, he reminded us that balance was not a myth after all. One brought the same infectious energy to every stroke discussion, every teaching point, every one more thing before we leave. A reminder that passion is contagious and some people make you love a field simply because they love it first. 3 chose to stay close to the vessel that brought them here. 3 familiar faces who became stroke fellows, teaching us how from the other side of the pager, keeping us sharp, keeping us honest, making sure no NIHSS point escaped unnoticed. One became everyone's compass, the person who somehow knew the answer, the schedule, the backup plan, and who to call when none of the above worked. A chief not because of a title, but because of leadership that seemed to follow naturally behind him. One knew from the beginning exactly where the journey would lead. While the rest of us debated fellowships and futures, she looked towards tumors, towards neuro-oncology, towards a path she had quietly chosen long ago, and then walked toward it with certainty. One taught us that mentorship does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives calmly, steadily, one conversation at a time. The kind of person who makes a room feel lighter simply by entering it. One carried enough energy for an entire residency class, the unofficial keeper of themes of celebrations, and making sure life remained colorful when our calendars did not. And because no residency is complete without its neighboring family, to our pediatric neurology graduates, guardians of tiny brains, masters of seizure doses, translators of mysteries that somehow can come in small packages, always willing to answer questions, always willing to teach, always reminding us that neurology begins long before adulthood. And to our vascular fellows, some arrived from elsewhere, some were alone, but all became part of the same story. Through spirited discussions, through challenging questions, through these moments where every imaging sequence suddenly mattered, you pushed us to think deeper, look closer, and become better than we were the day before. And then there is the person without whom none of this quite works. The keeper of calendars, the solver of disasters, the finder of forms no one else can find. The one who somehow treats every resident like family, like kittens she quietly adopted without us asking. A program coordinator in the title, but something much larger in practice. Every residency has schedules, few have someone who makes the place feel like home. Thank you, Tracy. And to our faculty, our attendings, our program directors, our mentors, thank you for teaching us neurology, but more importantly, for teaching us how to be neurologists, how to sit bedside, how to think before speaking, how to care before concluding, how to remember that every lesion belongs to a person. Because in the end, that is what the specialty has always been, a field devoted to memory. And perhaps that is why nights like this matter. Neurology asks us every day to think about what happens when memory fades. Yet tonight, all I can think about is everything we will remember. We will remember stroke codes at impossible hours. We will remember rounds that felt endless. We will remember conference rooms, workrooms, cafeterias, hallways, and elevators. We will remember the laughter, the victories, the mistakes, the lessons, and most of all, the people. Because years from now, when we are attending Starlow's teachers, mentors, and somehow the seniors ourselves, a small piece of each one of you will still be practicing medicine through us. That may be the most beautiful thing that residency ever gives us. Not just a career, not just a specialty, but a collection of people who carry forward the rest of our lives. Congratulations, class of 2026. Thank you for teaching us, thank you for leading us, and thank you for leaving footprints all across the neurons that we now call our homes. Thank you so much.